Good afternoon, Herminia Ibarra. So, if I asked you to think about a leader you admire, quick, who comes to mind? This is what I get. I've been doing this over the last few years. And if you ask people why they have chosen, these are the usual suspects, there's two themes that come up. One is we think of our leaders as people who are visionary, who are future-looking, who can see far ahead into the future, who can articulate that. And we also, very importantly, think about our leaders as people who can create common grounds. They not only enlist constituents, but they can actually create bridges among groups that don't necessarily see eye to eye or might often be in conflict. So seeing far ahead, but also uniting. Now, this is what we get as a result. Why is it that that model has provided this picture, which is what we see, despite the rhetoric of a greater need of inclusiveness, despite the rhetoric of a different distributed leadership model, this is still the result that we get in most large global organizations. So what I'd like to explore is what is it that it's going to take us to a different model, the one we've been talking about, but the one that we still need to articulate, one that maybe is more empowering, more inclusive, more connected. I'm going to submit that we have to think about two things a little bit more. One is our models of who leaders are, what's going into those models. Which is the leader fish here? Think quickly. Which one would you see as the leader fish? First one. It's pretty clear. That's what you get in the United States if you ask people 100% or as close to it as possible, say that one. If you ask that same question in Singapore, most still see the first one, but a lot see the one in the back as the leader. If you look at who have been the captains of World Cup soccer teams, quite interesting, in the United States and in Western Europe, it's most often the offense. But if you look at in other places, in Southern Europe, in East Asia, it's defense. Women. One of the most robust findings we have is extraordinarily difficult for us to see women as both competent and warm. You have to be one or the other. When you're forced to be one or the other, obviously you lose out in your ability to be visionary or to create common ground. That's been a real obstacle. Over here, race also comes into play. Much easier in this game, in this experiment, to shoot the black guy with the gun and not to shoot the white guy with the gun. We don't see if the black guy's holding a wallet, we think it looks like a gun. Reaction times are very much linked to these very implicit assumptions that we have. Second is, what do leaders do, and what are our models about how leaders develop? They're still hierarchical. This is the cover of this month's Harvard Business Review. This is the brochure of not INSEAD, a competitor business school. Still very much the image of climbing a ladder, climbing to the top, as moving it. But this is, we know everyone's connected. This is the image of today is of the leader who can connect, who can unite, who can be at the center, not necessarily at the top. We know this is the case, but we still don't have a more granular view of what these models really look like. Most of the people I see don't know how to work through networks. This is an image of what's going on in science. The most high-impact research, based on 50 years and almost 20 million papers, is research conducted in teams. We used to think about the solitary inventor. Look at the team that worked on the human genome. The highest impact research is in large teams that are quite diverse. So what do we do with all of this? What do we do with our leadership models? We can keep kind of tweaking the ones that we have, improving them, adapting them to this culture, to that culture, but are we going to take the other road and maybe start to develop more depth on a new and very different model? One, everybody's been talking about a paradigm shift. What does that really look like? What does it take to create that paradigm shift? It doesn't happen just when the old model fails. It happens when you can actually see the new model and see a trajectory for getting there. That's when you really start to get some traction. That's when the new models start to emerge. So how are we going to move to a different model? What do you see here? What is this? Ah, okay, so you can see both. Those of you who saw the duck, did you see the rabbit? Yeah. Okay, all right, so you've either seen this before, you're very agile people. The point here is, if you're in one paradigm, it's very, very hard to see the other. I will confess it took me a while. This is Joshua Bell, winner of the Avery Prize, the best classical musician in the United States. The Washington Post ran an experiment 2 weeks ago, had him play in the subway to see if anybody would stop and listen. Would it be recognized? So 43 minutes he played. So he's just won this prize. 1,097 people. How many people do you think stopped? How many would you guess? Okay, some of you may have read the article. 7 people stopped. 7 people, 43 minutes. So you see the new leader, the leader of the future, this new model, you're going to recognize it.